Hey, Nosizo, good morning. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
We are in Przemyśl right now at the border between Ukraine and Poland. And I am very thankful for you to join the call today. I've been reaching out to you because you are working for the Poland leading organization, anti-racist organization called Never Again. And
Yeah.
we have been for the past 10 days working on the experience of refugees fleeing Ukraine's war-torn Ukraine following Russian invasion. And we spoke to many Ukrainians, many volunteers, and we've been amazed by this generosity happening in Poland, welcoming Ukrainians by the millions. As a matter of fact, 1.6 million Poles flocked into Poland, and many individuals, families, people are just welcoming Ukrainians, opening their doors, welcoming them into their own homes and spare rooms. So it's been very inspiring. But we also heard quite many accounts of racist attacks and discriminatory treatments between refugees at the borders and in Ukraine and in Poland. So that's why I reached out to you, because you are a Black woman living in Poland, because you're working for this anti-racist organization, because, well, I am very interested in connecting with you, getting to know you better and understanding your trajectory. And thank you. So maybe you can introduce yourself, Nosizo, tell us a bit more about yourself, where you're from, and your current work at Never Again.
Okay, so my name is Nosizo Zondo. Originally, I'm from Zimbabwe, but I lived 3/4 of my life in South Africa. That's where I studied. I studied Bachelor of Laws in South Africa, and I graduated there. I worked a little bit, but it was kind of hard for me because I was not South African, and South Africa has this bureaucratic limitations that you cannot practice law in South Africa if you're not South African. So I ended up leaving South Africa. And part of the reasons why I became active in the humanitarian work is because I'm sure you've heard of the history of South African xenophobic attacks and things like that. I was very much active on that. And it was something that was a close cause to me because part of the people that are affected were people from my country and other people from the neighboring countries. So anyways, I had to move because my career was not growing in South Africa. So I came to Poland to study something completely different. And this is why I moved to Poland. And when I got to Poland, I registered for nursing. I'm studying nursing currently, but I also looked for organizations that were active in humanitarian work. And that was the first thing that I did when I got here. And I wanted to work there as a volunteer. So I applied, or I sent emails rather, to quite a number of them. And Never Again was one of the first ones to respond to me. And they welcomed me with warm hands, and I haven't looked back since then. It's been a wonderful experience for me.
Wonderful. Can you tell us a bit more about the work, your current work at Never Again? What kind of actions you're taking? What kind of collaborative work you're having with the other volunteers?
Okay, so what I do with Never Again, I coordinate some of the volunteers. If I look for volunteers, if there are some that want to join us, and we do some work online. Most of the work that I do is online. I hardly am on the ground because I have to be at school as well. So I do it part-time, and I liaise with some of our partners, and I coordinate the things that the volunteers have to do wherever they are, because we have multiple volunteers from different countries, different places. So whatever they do in their countries, I'm basically the central part, and then I speak to the head in our head office.
Okay, thank you. So you're studying nursing, is that what you said?
Yes, I am.
Okay, that's very nice. Yeah, so please, can you please tell us a bit more about Never Again's work? Maybe not only your involvement in it, but what's the vocation, the vision, the mission of Never Again, and where it comes from, And we're standing now with this amazing refugee crisis happening, the fastest growing refugee crisis since World War II. Where are you guys standing about that, and what you are doing about the situation?
Okay, so Never Again originally was founded by Marcin Konak in 1992, and it was officially registered, I think, in 1996. And it's basically one of the leading organizations in Poland that is working and promoting multicultural understanding, and where they contribute to the development of democratic society. And what we do is we basically amplify our voice on any prejudices. We speak about against prejudices, and we focus on educating the youth and encouraging respect and diversity, and as well eliminating and marginalizing racism, xenophobia, and anti-Semitic tendencies generally. And sometimes we also collect information, document it, record it, and send it to journalists, or if there is an opportunity that presents itself, we speak and engage the perpetrators of any prejudicial behavior, for example.
That sounds very, very interesting and very well needed in Poland as well. We heard even from Germany, France, we heard quite many stories, especially for the past few years, as the far right movements are being more and more present in the society, in the political society as well. Maybe can you please tell me a bit more about your own experience as a Black woman living in Poland? Did you face situations of racism? Is that happening often? And how do you live that? How do you experience that yourself?
Unfortunately, racism is alive in Poland, and it's a sad thing. Although there is a lot of, there's a lot of wonderful people, but there is also a huge number of people that have this great intolerance against Black people. I'm not sure what the root cause is and where it's emanating from, but I have experienced it myself. I have friends that have experienced it. Like sometimes when you are walking in the streets, you just have someone, they'll just lower their window and just start cursing and calling you all sorts of vile names. Or like maybe kids, random kids, even, like that's the sad part, like even random kids, teenagers, they will just, I remember there's a child who once asked us for money when we were just walking past, and we said we don't have. He just stopped us like in an intimidating way, and he asked for money, and we said we don't have. I think he was about 16, and we said we don't have, and he he said something really that I cannot repeat to us, and part of it was like, do this to me, you Black bitch, you know. And it was, for me, what saddened me was the age of that person. And I know that he learned it somewhere, and he has seen it somewhere, because he cannot just wake up like that. And we experienced that for, like, as I mentioned, that I work, I'm doing nursing. So we go to the hospitals at times. And in the hospitals, the experience that we get there as Black students from the nurses is disturbing. Like, there is other white students, there's Black students. The treatment is completely different. They don't want us, we can tell that they don't want us, to the point that like they segregate. So the white students are allowed to learn and do things and even engage with the patients. With us, I remember the last hospital that I was in, it was Krashnik Hospital, and they called, because I think they were tired of having us idling there, not doing anything. So they called this lady who cleans, and they asked her if she needed assistance, and they gave us that lady to start helping her to clean. So now we're literally cleaning the hospital, and she was giving us the dirtiest things to do. And it's just an example of some of the things that happens. And there's people who were working during the summer holidays last year. Most of them, they got jobs in the farms and the factories. And most of those jobs, they come with like maybe some sort of an accommodation because they'll be out of town. So the living conditions that were given to Black students were completely different than the ones that were given to the Ukrainian students and the Polish, not students, the Ukrainians and the Polish people. Like, so the Black students were put in small, tiny little rooms, and they would be made to stay there in groups, like maybe tens. Yet the Ukrainians and the Polish people, there'll be like maybe two of them in a room, and it's much more comfortable. And the kind of work, the segregation of the kind of work, like the harder stuff and the nasty stuff is given to the Blacks, and the good stuff is given to the white people. Like, so it's just, among other things, the examples that of things that happen. But I know racism is alive. I've experienced it. And recently, I just got called a monkey by a Bolt driver, and he gave us a monkey face. So yeah, something that is real, unfortunately.
Well, I'm very, very sorry to hear that, Nosizo. That's very difficult to wrap our heads around. I cannot really put myself into your shoes, because I'm benefiting on a daily basis of the white privilege. The privileges that come along, not looking black or brown. So this is extremely upsetting. Yeah, and how do you feel about that? Because these are a series of facts that are, like show that racism is very well alive in Polish society, in Western countries. But how do you cope with it, and what does it mean in terms of, like, well, developing an extra motivation every day to just get up from the bed and do the work, right?
For me, I think it's because I have had that kind of experience. The rejection is nothing new for me, because I was in South Africa. My country, the history of my country is not a good one, it's a sad one. So we have been put in a position where we have to be strong regardless of where we are. Speaking for myself as a Zimbabwean person, because either way, the way my country is inhabitable. Wherever I am, regardless of the treatment that I get, I need to persevere, I need to survive, I need to be strong, and I need to just take it with a pinch of salt and just move on, keep moving. At the end of the day, it's whatever behavior of the other person or whatever way they treat me, it's not about me, it's about them. The issue is with them. So I don't really take it personal anymore, because I was in South Africa and we were rejected there. There's still rejection there. There is, people are being killed for not being South African. They get burned alive, and all sorts of things are happening to them because there are Blacks doing that to other Blacks. But because they're not South African, it's happening to them. So it's something that I have lived through, I've experienced, I've seen it happening. And I cannot really say I'm used to it, because it's not something that you get used to, but I have learned how to survive it. So this is nothing new. As I'm experiencing in Poland, I kind of feel sorry for people like that, because I'm wondering the kind of burden that you have to have every day to wake up and think, let me go and be some mean to another person because they look different from me. I'm just living my life. I'm choosing to be happy. If you choose to be miserable because there's another person who's got a different skin color from yours, that's your problem. And I choose to look at it like that. And I will try to educate the few that are willing to be educated. And hopefully, if we can advocate more, some people will change. And if they change, they'll teach the next person to be better people. Because I always quote Nelson Mandela, who said, no one is born hating anybody. People are taught to hate. And if they can be taught to hate, they can be taught to love. So I will be exemplary to them by loving them regardless. And that's how I choose to survive it.
Thank you for sharing these beautiful thoughts. And yeah, that's very inspiring what you're saying. Thank you. We have observed the past years, the rise of far right movements in Poland, not only in Poland, but all over, Europe and in many other countries in the world. What's your views on that? Because you're obviously trying to bring about change and change society, change the hearts of people and their thoughts and their outlook on the situation. but it seems that Europe is going back, the wrong direction towards more hate, more hate towards diversity and rejection of foreigners. How do you see that? I mean, what's your views on that?
For example, in Poland, I think the biggest challenge that we have is that the government in itself is a far-right government, and the symbolic elites, they shape up the society. So as long as we have the leaders who are far-right, it's natural that the society will gravitate towards that, and they will also become that. And you have the politicians, the leaders of the people, mobilizing and encouraging people to actually, for example, there is a guy, his name is Zapolonsky, I think. I'm struggling to pronounce the Polish names. And he's a former MP, and actually he was a European Parliament member as well. And recently, since the Ukrainian crisis started, he literally posted on his social media that people, the youth, must go out there and beat up the bandits and attack the Black people because they are not welcome here. And he literally used any foul word you can possibly imagine to label Black people. And he was mobilizing and encouraging and telling the young people who are very much impressionable to actually go out and attack these people. So if we have these people, because they are the leaders and people look up to them, and they should be leading by example. And if this is what they have been put in place of leadership by these people, and this is what they say to these people, or naturally people will follow because they are their leaders. It goes without saying that they must follow what the leader says. So they think this is the right way of doing things. And I saw recently in the news, the leaders were saying that all the stuff about the Black experiences, the Black students and some Black people that were coming from Ukraine that they reported was lies. For me, I don't understand why, when there is proof and evidence everywhere and you go out and say it is a lie, what you're basically telling these people, the perpetrators, is do whatever we want, we will protect you, because as long as you are doing it to them, it's okay. We will just go out to the media and say it's a lie. And when they say it's a lie, these people feel safe to continue doing what they're doing. They are not supposed to be denying this. Denialism is one of the biggest enemies that we have, because once you deny the bad that is happening and you're sweeping it under the carpet, people who are doing it, they feel safe to continue because they know they'll never be exposed. And this is the problem that we have in Poland, because we want to pretend as if racism is not there. We want to pretend as if all these things that are being said, it's a lie. If it's real and it's happening, let's talk about it. Let's find a solution together. Let's not pretend as if it's not happening. For me, that is the problem that I'm seeing. And as long as we keep on denying, we will never change. It will just keep on getting worse, I think.
And I absolutely agree with you. Yes, that's so important to raise awareness and do whatever it takes in order to bring back debate into the public space, right? That's for sure. But well, debate is impossible when those in power are actually belong to the far right side of things.
That's the
right?
problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
So has your organization never again been the target of threats or of the government trying to intimidate you?
Not that I know of, because I have not really been with Never Again for that long. It's just been a couple of years, but as far as I have been so far, I know we've faced resistance, yes, but as of the targeting, direct targeting, I am not sure of. That's something that I cannot really speak much of. Probably maybe Professor Rafał Pankowski would be much more knowledge on that. I can't really say for sure, but I know we have really faced resistance, definitely.
I can imagine. I can imagine. So can you please tell me in your own words what's happening at the border between Poland and Ukraine following the Russian invasion of Ukraine?
I think it's somewhat of a paradox for me, because it's a bittersweet situation. Okay, it's something beautiful for depending on who you speak to, I would say. Okay, so for the Ukrainians, yes, it's something commendable what is happening in Ukraine. The response has been amazing. It's been great. And it's okay, it's not something that we can overshadow by the bad that has been happening. Like I said, it depends on who you speak to. And it's a proof that we are capable of doing the right things when the need comes. And at the same time, because people talk about how Polish people have changed, the politicians, and the attitude has changed, and how wonderful, maybe they've grown. But at the same time, my question is, if they have grown, they have changed, and the attitude has changed, and there is compassion, and there is sudden love, change of heart, because bearing in mind, not so long ago, the same politicians, they spoke up of building a wall, emulating what Trump, the ideologies of Trump, they spoke about building a wall around their borders. So the same leaders that we're talking about that are now the same leaders now who come across as these saviors. I am proud of the response. I'm really happy, but why is it selective? Because if it's compassion and there is a change of heart, it should not see any color of the skin. It should not see any race. It should not see any nationality. It should be compassion, because we're a human race to begin with. So it's a bittersweet experience, I would say, a moment which I would love to see what happens after that. Perhaps things have changed. Perhaps it's a precedence of the new beginning and the new era, change of things. We have to live to see that and wait for it. But I'm a little disappointed, because as much as it's been wonderful, the way they responded to the Ukrainians specifically, because I think the compassion and the response was to the Ukrainians. I'm not so impressed about the response to the rest of the world. So why is it that there is other people that are more deserving than others? I don't know what to say about that situation. I'm torn, really. And I just want to see it play itself out and see, as soon as we get through this, I would love to see the developments post the whole Ukrainian war thing.
Oh, yes, hopefully. I mean, I know that the whole world sees this different way, to treat, like white-looking Ukrainian immigrants and the others, especially Muslim, Muslim,
Yes.
Black and brown refugees. And hopefully there will be, after the war, hopefully soon, a public debate, because it's been obvious, it's becoming apparent that there is an unequal treatment of
Yeah.
and what's really like strikes me most is that, as always in public debates on the media, there's always the need to either be white or black, one or two, binary thinking. It's either you say this is wonderful, you need to support Ukrainians, or if you actually try to just be fair and shed light on both sides, of the equation, you are being, pointed out as like, well, you're actually, it's a shame you're not supporting Ukrainians. Don't you know what they're going through? Of course, you're right. It's absolutely amazing and necessary what's happening. This welcoming of those Ukrainians is critical as welcoming those 6 million refugees the past 10 years coming from Middle East. But that was not the case. And especially Poland. Poland has been very clear about their refusal of, of welcoming those very refugees from the Middle East. One of the harshest laws in place with Hungary, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's this double standard is upsetting, and I hope that we will be able to to speak more broadly about that. Can you please tell me more about the situation, the violent situation that happened in Chemiché, in the city by the border? I know that some people of color coming from Ukraine were attacked by a bunch of racist people. Can you please tell me more about that?
Okay, so like I say that racism is real and it's alive in Poland. So I think these were not necessarily isolated incidents. It was just a manifestation of what has been actually happening behind. It's just that this is under the spotlight. This is something that now is being seen by the world. Though it's the world is basically watching that whole situation, and it had an opportunity to be actually exposed. But this is the reality of life in Poland. Racism and racial attacks are there. There is sporadic attacks here and there. Sometimes it may not go as violent as this happened, but it's happening. And I know there is people that were beaten up. Some Black guys were beaten up and accused of raping women. And when they were caught, guys, they accused that these Black guys were raping women or they were stealing. And they would make up all sorts of stories, and they were recording themselves doing these things. It shows that it's entertaining, it's entertainment for them. And they were motivated, they were encouraged by a political leader. He's the one who told them to go and do this, because he said that the youth must go out there and they must hit these bandits. They're not welcome here, and they must not let them go into the streets. And it's not something that they just happened now because there's the Ukrainian situation. They just got an opportunity. This is fertile ground for them to actually do what they have been doing behind closed doors, behind hidden scenes, like it hasn't been seen. But what is happening right now, it's a reflection of the reality in Poland. It's just a manifestation of things that go unseen. And it may not be a good thing to say, but I'm glad it is being seen. I'm glad maybe those things happened so that it can actually be brought to light. Because up until now, whenever people say this happened, people deny and say, no, it didn't happen. It's a lie. But there's proof now. There's evidence. No matter what you say to us and say it didn't happen, we see it. It's happening. And thank you to social media. In a way, thank you to the smartphones, because everyone now is able to capture moments as they happen, and let's see how far they can keep on denying it. But this is happening, and well, that's the light. That's a great part of it. The lighter side of it is that now we get to see what's happening in Poland, because all along it's been like, oh no, people are just accusing Polish people of being racist, and not all Polish people are racist, but there is racist people. And we are accusing the far right leadership, which is actually the cause of this, because they are the ones who are encouraging people, influencing people, and they are the ones that are mobilizing, and they need to lead by example. So, yeah.
Yes, you are absolutely right. When people feel empowered, and to go unchecked and uncontrolled, those racist behaviors become much more tough and more frequent. How frequent are they? Like, do you hear often about such incidents as you're working for Never Again?
Yes, I have people who contact me and inform me I had this experience. Somebody attacked me, but I think one of the advantages that is there is a lot of surveillance in Poland, like general surveillance. Probably this is the reason why it may not happen as much. However, the one that you experience more is verbal attacks, hate speech, and social media particularly. Like at times you just send a message to a person. For example, a Black student will send a message to someone who advertised an apartment and say, I'm interested in your apartment, can I rent it out? And they'll tell them, I don't rent out my apartment to Black people, or next time you contact me, please let me know that you're Black so that I don't waste my time. I had that experience. And you in the streets, in the restaurants, like sometimes you see someone just gets off and then they'll say something mean to you and insult you, or they call women are supposedly meant to be Black hosts, so they call us. So this is the general perception. They are sexual objects to be servicing men. This is the idea. So this is what you get called in the streets. And it's mostly verbal and hate speech more than violent. And it becomes violent if the area or the environment allows. So I think in the city or in the urban areas, for example, because of the surveillance, it's easier for people to get caught. So they will not do it. But given an opportunity, because sometimes the way people treat you in broad daylight, it makes me scared. What if I meet this person in the dark alone? What will they do to me? Because at this moment, the only thing they can do is say something that cannot be recorded or captured, and there's no proof of it. So they can get away with it, and whilst people are watching. So you can only imagine what would happen if they saw you alone and they found you in your most vulnerable state. So that's what scares me. And for that reason, we're kind of careful not to be in isolated places in the dark at night, all by yourself, or in a place where you know no one will find you or see you to protect you. So
Absolutely, yes. So let's speak a bit about your visions of the solutions. I know that the problem is huge. There are many countries touched by or plagued by racism, or many, and a magic wand won't be even enough to fix the problem. But on a local level, on the community level, what are the solutions at hand in order to try to build, a solidarity network in order to protect minorities and to protect people of color to not be the target of attacks?
Firstly, I think it's important for people to be able and be more comfortable to talk about this, even if I am a Black person and I am talking to my white friend. I think it's something that we must be comfortable to talk about. We should not shy away from it because it's the reality. And just because you are my white friend and I'm talking about racism with you, I'm not accusing you, but I'm just letting you know so that you can also have a conversation with the next person. So the biggest challenge is people don't want to talk about this. People want to pretend as if it's not happening. So I think we are in denial, or it's shame. I'm not sure which of the two it is. We just want to pretend as if it's not happening, or it's just, oh, well, it happened. Okay, let's move on. But it's not as simple as that, because as long as we don't address it, it'll keep happening. So we need to have conversations on ground level, grassroots level, from friends to friends, and keep on talking to the next people. Let's educate each other. And if there's institutions that can actually do even as little as they possibly can, it can be little posters or whatever that they can put in their offices that encourage acceptance of people that look different from you. It's a start. It doesn't have to start big. We can start small, because there is companies that, as small as the company is, you go in there, you will still feel the racism. So if the owners of that company can actually teach their employees differently, then that's a beginning. And those employees, if they're like that, they have children. You can only imagine what they're teaching their children, because children may not necessarily learn from hearing, but they learn from observing. So if I am Black and I am passing, and I'm passing a family of a white family, and they have a child, and as soon as I go past them, they pull that child from me to protect that child, like I'm sort of carrying some sort of, I don't know, something that should be protected from. Like, what are you communicating? You don't even have to say anything to that child. Already they know this person is different from me. When I see this person, I must run. this person is unacceptable. So it's little things that need to happen from the society, from companies, in restaurants, the way they will treat you in a restaurant, even waiters, it's not the same. Even in the banks, it's not the same. Sometimes you go into even a clinic or a hospital, someone will just, they're not interested to even try and make an effort. We have Google Translate. Someone will just tell you, I don't speak English, please go somewhere else. Like automatically for me, that's an attitude of, I'm just not interested in engaging with you for whatever reason. And it's just small little things that we can start with. We can start at home, we can start with our friends, we can start in our companies, we can start where we are on our day-to-day and grow from there. And people use social media so much to share a lot of nonsense. Why not use that time sharing something that is much more developing, something that is for a greater good? When someone captures someone doing something bad, they are quick to shame each other, posting and sharing those videos and those things. Why are they not using the same platforms to actually share something that is actually speaking against the bad things that are happening? So I think we can just start by teaching each other, educating each other, sharing little things, and condemning each other. Because when you hear your friend, even if it's a joke, someone is joking in a foul way about a person of color or Islamic, you know, there's Islamic jokes and things like that, don't laugh, condemn it. Don't, because when you laugh, you're encouraging it. You may not be the perpetrator, but by laughing and entertaining it, you're part of it. You're encouraging it. So I think we can start with little changes in our day-to-day lives, and we can slowly, one person at a time, change.
Absolutely. Although you are saying that it starts at the individual level, you have decided to become an organizer because you believe in the power of working together. While we are,
Yes.
as we're collaborating, we can affect more change, create more impact, right? But anyway, conversations need to be public, need to be collective, and
Yes.
I think it's awesome, you know, that this organization, Never Again, is empowering you to actually be part of the discussion. You know, like whatever we do at the Change Weavers organization we're working for, we start by identifying those emerging leaders that come from impacted communities, right? Because those that actually live the impact, whatever it is, you know, like environmental justice, gender justice, racial justice, those living the impacts, or those that actually develop the knowledge coming from the experience, and therefore they know better what kind of solutions we all need to address those problems. So I think it's wonderful that although you're the victim of lots of abuse, discrimination, racism, you're still, you know, standing and use your voice to create debate with lots of compassion, even towards those abusers and those people using racism as a way, you know, whatever their motivation is. I don't know. So I think it's very important for people of colors to be part of the discussion, to be leading the conversation, but also I think it's important for white folks to be recognizing their own racism, which is not a moral issue per se, but well, myself, I've been working for the past decades on racism, abuses, injustices, but I also know that I grew up in France, that I watched TV, I belong to the culture where I grew up, that I benefited from those privileges associated to the color of my skin, and therefore I still need to address on a daily basis the racism, the institutional or cultural racism that still, you know, is inside me. And that's why I think it's very difficult, you know, or it's easy for them to say, it's difficult for white people to say, well, I am not racist, you know, I have black and brown friends. But I think it's not only a moral issue, it's just recognizing racism, systemic racism inside all of us. And this, in my opinion, along with white privileges, or what we all need to start speaking about amongst families, friends, but also organize, you know, like through this methodology of community organizing. How can we actually go like a wildfire? How can we actually accelerate impact and social change? Because if we wait too long, in my opinion, you know, racism is gonna go wild, you know, in Europe, and we already see that. And I'm just, my question, sorry, I spoke too long. My question is, are you optimistic about the path Europe is taking?
I am optimistic in a way because I have a lot of people in Europe that are willing to work together with like-minded people to bring a change. So all we need to do is just keep growing. And as long as there is still a seed, and the seed is the few individuals that are willing to do something about it, then that seed can germinate and grow into something bigger. So we cannot give up until the seed has died. The seed is there, we are the seed. The people that are still standing and talking, they are the seeds. Let's cultivate that seed, let's nurture it, let's water it, let's grow it, and keep spreading and doing whatever we can. It's kind of a challenge. It's not going to be easy because we are basically, the scales are tilting against us, of course, but we cannot give up because of that, particularly when we are like little ants challenging elephants, because we're not just talking to the grassroots here. We are also having to deal with the mindset of the leaders, people who are actually more powerful than we are. Their voices are louder than ours. What they say, what I will post will be viewed by 5 people, 10 people. What they say will be seen by millions of people. So naturally, they will influence a greater number than mine. So what I need to do is engage more people and have more people speak about what the few that we touch. If they can also touch the few that they can touch, perhaps eventually something will happen, but we are definitely not going to give up. So optimistic, yes, I am. I still have hope. I'm hopeful and I believe and I know we will do it. It will, and we will get to a point where this will be something, a story to tell someday.
So how can we engage more people? How can we better organize? Because we need to be as good as our opponents or even better than them, although they're louder and they have like better outreach. How can we do that?
For me, I think one of our biggest enemies at this point is social media, because it's being abused. It's being used the wrong way. And maybe if we can take advantage of it and use it the right way and engage the same influential people. There is a few celebrities, for example, that are working towards that, who are voices for advocates, I would say, of anti-racism, anti-Semitism, and who are anti-Islamic, Islamophobia and gay rights. There's people who are speaking against that, who are actually symbolic elites, as I would put them, and we can use them as well. If we can reach out to those people and get their assistance, because on our own, I don't have that much bigger network of friends, and I'm not that much of a big social media person either. I don't have social media presence, as I would put it. And social media is the king at this point. It's ruling the world. So if it is the king, let's use the king to win the subjects. That's what I believe. So somehow, I may not know exactly what we can do, but also perhaps engaging the tech companies, because they allow some of, we know that they're after profits, and they allow some of the bad stuff that is being shared, which is working against our cause, to stay there and to continue being shared. If they can also do their part in supporting us, we're not asking them to do anything like to contribute perhaps, but we're just asking them to be on the lookout and pull out all the negative things that are against what we are working towards. That's the least they can do. After all, this is for all our human race. It's not to benefit us only, it's to benefit them as well. Who knows what this racism, when it escalates, it's not going to affect them. So everybody needs to be interested. We need to take it as a matter of our personal benefit, not, oh, well, it doesn't affect me, so I'm not bothered. We can't afford to be indifferent towards this. We all have to be involved. And somehow, if perhaps it can start at schools too, I think if it can be part of the curriculum in primary schools, from kindergarten, children, when they are being taught little things like colors, shapes, they need to know this is a Black person, this is an Islamic person, this is an Indian person. We are all one. We need to love each other. There is nothing different from me, from this person. We need to be taught those things from a young age, because whilst the parents at school, parents at home are teaching children something different through their actions, let the teachers at school teach the children something different, so that when the parents do something that is wrong, the children can be in a position to correct their parents and say, but no, my teacher said this. So we can start maybe from teaching young children as well, because they are growing up with this and they are going to be the adults of the next generation. And what they're learning now is what's going to shape them to be something that they will become. So there's many ways we can do it. It's not gonna be easy, but we can't give up. We have to try.
We do have to try, yes. How can people become better allies? I know that many people actually, although benefiting from this system of injustices, they feel concerned, they see what's happening, they disagree with it, and they would like to get involved. But many times we hear, people, I don't know what to do. So how can people become better allies in order to support the work of organizations like the one you're working for?
If people are interested in doing this, like I'm saying, it does, for me, I start with people around me in my life. I'm one of those people. I'm probably not exactly the most popular person, because I don't care how close and how much you are to me. If you do something wrong against another person without a cause, without a reason, without any justification, I will call you to order right away. So I think in the very case, if you don't have a platform to begin with, to start with, start within your people around you, within your family, within your circle of friends. If you're at school, start at school, because we have this fear of being misfits, I think, to the point that even when we see something bad happening, we cannot speak against it. There is so much social media bullying. I am always one of those, when everybody is laughing at something, they post a naked person and they're shaming and whatever, everyone is enjoying that. And then I'll just come out of nowhere and ask, so what is entertaining about this? Why are you enjoying shaming another person and humiliating? Why is it fun for you? What do you get out of it? So be that person who comes out and stand out and say, but this is wrong. You cannot afford to treat another person like this. And you start with the people around you, condemn them, be it your mother. If your mother is treating another person wrongly for the mere fact that they look different, they're from a different place, or they speak a different language, tell them out of love, mommy, this is wrong, you cannot do that. And the next person, if it's your friend, you cannot be afraid of losing such relationships with people who are treating other people badly. Let's start with people around us. Let's educate them and grow from there. Because not all of us are going to have platforms to speak up and platforms to reach out everybody, but we can start with the people around us. And then eventually, if you are more interested, we can always look around. There's so many organizations that are doing this, and see where you can fit yourself in and see what your skills are, what you can offer, what you can contribute, and do the little that you can. But just don't sit, don't fold your hands, do something, be active, be involved. That's my thought.
Thank you. I like too much the way you speak, so I don't want to steal too much of your time, but I cannot let you go. So please allow me to ask a last question.
Okay.
I agree with absolutely everything you say. Education is key. Start by the ground level is key. What I believe also, and that's what the Change Weavers is doing, is try to connect the very local and the very global. And we recognize the interconnection between injustices and social justice issues. You know, I think that it's important to address racism, but it's also important to address abuse to women. The same way it's important to recognize the negative impacts of capitalism. So I think like injustices needs to be connected or reconnected at the very local as well as the very global. So that's why when we are traveling across the globe, covering sex trafficking, covering environmental justice, covering racial justice, we are collaborating with community organizers that are very active on the ground level, but also understand the priority of reaching out to other communities around the globe facing similar issues, so that actually we don't feel isolated anymore, so that the organizers know that they belong to a wider network, you know, of like-minded people doing the work, you know, and able together to have like a stronger voice than, you know, on the very local. Is that something that you want to develop in the future? What is it that you're doing today, or what are the seeds you saw today that will flourish and maybe bring you to actually connect with other communities, other community organizers that are across the globe facing similar issues that you do in Poland, but also put in place the solutions that collectively will bring about change?
Yes, definitely. This is part of the vision, and I'm actually glad that, as it happens, that Never Again is basically working more or less in that way, because it has branches in other continents as well. And secondly, they have given me an opportunity to actually liaise with some of their partners, and the partners of Never Again are global, like they are everywhere. And I interact with most of them to establish partnerships and to strengthen those partnerships and to see what we can do together. And I think from those partnerships, more partnerships are emanating from that, and it's growing. And I'm actually very much privileged to find myself working with Never Again, because I cannot believe it sometimes, because it's been amazing for me, the opportunities that they've given me. It has allowed me to grow. When I came here, yes, I was already involved and passionate about this, but they've given me a platform to actually grow and expand, you know, and I have had an opportunity to speak to different people from different countries and attend a lot of different conferences. And that way, this is how we get into a web and intertwined and connected. And there's always common ground, and we find ourselves working together with different organizations on different things. And it's been wonderful for me.
Okay, thank you, Nosizo. This has been amazing to talk to you, and I hope that we will stay in touch. I would love to to follow your work and follow the situation in Poland, because I think what's happening in Ukraine and in Poland is very, very important, not only towards understanding better what's happening in Europe, but towards building a better understanding of racial dynamics, social justice dynamics across the globe also. So thank you. It's been a beautiful speaking with you, and I hope
thank you so much for the opportunity.
Our followers will love the discussion we had as much as I did.
Certainly. Thank you so much for the opportunity as well.
Thank you.